Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third in our series of Medicaid workshops. We're presenting these workshops in the hope that they will be helpful to you as you go through life, and if you have someone who is facing a nursing home placement. I would like to introduce myself. I am Tenney Lantz, and I have an undergraduate degree from Clark University. And I have my law degree from the University of Massachusetts School of Law. I have a number of different licenses. In addition to my law license, I'm a certified veterans specialist. I'm also an insurance broker, a real estate broker, and a mortgage broker. And my favorite thing to do is to spend time with my grandchildren. Introducing to you also our associate here, Michael Coleman, who's been with us for several years. Michael lives in Westport, and he received his undergraduate degree from Fairfield University down in Connecticut. And then he went to law school on Long Island and received his law degree from Hofstra School of Law. And as you can see by this slide, he was smart enough to earn his degree cum laude, which means with honors. So he is a very smart man. We are members of a couple of organizations that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And Michael is admitted to practice not only in Massachusetts, but in New York as well. And he likes to spend time walking his dog or walking himself in various places in Westport. We invite you to visit our website. It's lantzlawinc.com, and we have a lot of information there about these webinars and other upcoming events, or just basic information that you may want to know about estate planning. Our office is a member of the American Academy of Estate Planning Attorneys. This is a national organization. It is actually headquartered on the West Coast, but it has members throughout the country. And we rely upon this group for our continuing education in the field of estate planning. Some of the most prestigious estate planning attorneys in the country are members of this organization, and we are the only members representing Bristol, Plymouth, Barnstable, and Dukes County in Massachusetts. We are also members of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, or NALA as it's known. And there is a Massachusetts chapter that we're active with. This organization tends to deal more with elder law matters, with matters of Medicaid and special needs planning. So we've talked for the first couple of seminars about what Medicaid is, how it's different from Medicare, what protections you can put in place if you would like to avoid the Medicaid issues. And now in this seminar, we're going to talk about how do you get Medicaid? What do you have to do to apply? Well, as with most government situations, you have to complete a very long form. The form is actually about 20 pages long, and it asks you all kinds of questions about yourself, your income, your bank accounts, your assets. And for each of the answers that you say yes, you have to provide some sort of written verification, like a copy of bank statements. This also includes your spouse. So it isn't just your assets, but it's the assets that you and your spouse own together. And by law, the state has the right to ask for 5 years of verifications on everything that you're submitting. And as we know, most people do hate completing forms. They look at them and say, I can't do this. Well, unfortunately, you have to complete them. and how you answer certain questions on the form does make a difference. So you want to review whatever form you're submitting to Medicaid with a knowledgeable advisor. Please don't allow the person at the nursing home business office or the social worker at the hospital to complete your Medicaid forms. You want to also make sure that you keep a copy of everything that you submit. After you send in those forms, then what happens? Well, after a week or 2 or 3, you usually would get back something called an information request. You have 30 days to reply to that request, and that request usually has information that you might not have sent in before that the Mass Health worker is looking for. They might say, well, you said you had a bank account at Bay Coast Bank, but I don't see the 5 years of statements. Or they might say, you said you owned a property 4 years ago, but I don't see any deed or any reference to what happened to it. So you have to send back a response to everything that was on that information request, and it has to be back within 30 days. But then you wait. And at some point, you will get a decision from the Mass Health worker. That will be one of 2 things. You will either get approved or you will get disapproved. And almost always the applications that I send in get turned down. The reason for turning it down has to be included in the notice that you receive. And if you think that you have sent in everything that's necessary or you have explanations for reasons why you were denied, you have up to 30 days from the date of that notice of denial to send an appeal request in to the Board of Hearings. The Board of Hearings is an entity composed of lawyers based in Quincy, Massachusetts, and they hear these administrative hearings called an appeal. So after you send in your appeal request, you wait to be notified of a date. And eventually, sometimes 3 or 4 or 6 months later, you get a date for this hearing. And ordinarily, it would take place in a small room in Taunton. And the hearings are on the record, which means that they are recorded, and it's like court testimony. So you have to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. And generally there are only 3 or 4 people in this room. There's the hearing officer, who's an attorney. There's the Mass Health worker, who will state why she turned your application down. And you are welcome to attend, and usually I attend as an attorney representing the appellant. So this hearing takes place, and then again you wait. And eventually the hearing officer will write a decision as to whether or not he agrees with the denial or whether you can be approved for Medicaid. What happens while you're waiting out all these time frames? Do you pay anything? Do you pay the private payment amount? No. From the date that you apply for Medicaid, you notify the nursing home that you have applied, and in that meantime, while you're waiting for the process to work its way through all the special different segments, you want to pay what is called the patient pay amount. That patient pay amount is the income that is earned monthly by the person who is in the nursing home. Not the spouse, but the person in the nursing home. So as long as you pay that patient pay amount every month, the nursing home cannot evict you, even though it may go months before the Board of Hearings acts. And then what happens if I'm eventually approved? And so far, all of my applications have gotten to this point and have been approved. Well, the date of funding goes back to the original date of eligibility. And eligibility means the date upon which you were down to the asset limit that we talked about in our prior webinar, and you are in the nursing home. So if you have those two criteria, that is your date of eligibility, and Medicaid will retroactively pay back to that date if you're approved. Then there is something called a state recovery. Now, the state of Massachusetts pays out quite a bit on behalf of those it supports in nursing facilities, and it wants to get reimbursed for that expenditure. But by state law, the only way that it can get reimbursed is through a probate process. So one thing that we tell our clients is to avoid probate to the greatest extent possible. But if you do need to go through the probate process, then a state recovery will send a notice to you of the amount that is owed from your estate back to the Medicaid office. Why should you work with us instead of just doing this on your own, or perhaps with somebody in the business office at the nursing home? Well, there are a variety of reasons. The Medicaid law is very complicated. It's been amended very many times since it was first put in place back in the 1980s by the federal government. It's a difficult process. It involves a number of steps. It involves knowing how to answer certain things in certain ways. In addition to the law, there are regulations that have to be met, and those regulations can change fairly often. So you want to be aware of those. And if you are involved in an appeal, you want to know how to handle that, because it is a judiciary kind of hearing, and you want to know what can be admitted and what can't, and so forth. If you plan ahead with us, you can save practically everything most of the time. But if you wait too long, you could lose all of your assets. So far, we have a 100% approval record with our clients. And I emphasize again, please don't allow the hospital or a nursing home to complete your Medicaid application. And they may offer to assist you, but it is not a good idea, because they're concerned with making sure that they get paid, not necessarily that you save your assets. And they're not likely to provide you with any strategies of ways to protect your assets. And they may not provide any follow-up. We've had several clients who do not have a copy of their original application because the nursing facility didn't keep one, and they don't really know what was sent in, so they don't know how to appeal. So it's not a good idea to have the nursing home or a hospital do your application for you. We have more than 20 years, almost 25 actually, of assisting clients to maneuver through this difficult process. And so far, we have not had an application denied. But what's the first thing you should do? Plan. Plan ahead now. Plan, 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 because if you do, then you are likely to be able to save your assets for your family and your loved ones. Remember, you have a 5-year look-back period, and you have to plan before then. Remember also to be nice to your children, because it's likely they will choose your nursing home. And be nice to your lawyer, because she'll show you how to protect your assets. If you are worried about losing assets to a nursing home, Please take some action. Call our office at 508-998-8800, and we'll be happy to talk to you about your particular situation. And thank you for attending our workshop. As I said, this was the third in our series of webinars related to Medicaid, and we will be doing other seminars about estate planning, about trusts versus wills, and all those other kinds of interesting subjects. So keep on listening, keep on watching, and thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.